I want to have a relevant Bucks, Giannis, sorry, Grant. Yes, Damian Lillard trade.
That's fine.
The reason I'm doing this is because I think there are there are a handful of really smart NBA people nationally. And the leader of that group, for me, is Zach Lowe. Zach Lowe is never, in my opinion, I've never seen him do clickbait. I've never felt that he's done something to grab a headline. That's not his deal. So my face is going to go away here for a second while I get exactly the way that Zach Lowe talked about this. Zach Lowe, my gut, and this was him saying this in his podcast, The Lowe Post. My gut says if this season goes poorly, the Bucks will not bury their head in the sand and will trade Giannis. This wasn't a headline. This wasn't a clickbait. We all have these people, right? These people who we trust, who we put our stock into. And for me, Zach Lowe is the leader of that group in the NBA. So I hear that, I'm like, whoa. Now, I mentioned Ty Windish earlier, who I messaged with a handful of times, and thank you, Ty, for doing that to help gut check this with me. Ty has said on several occasions that next offseason, because of the way this draft pick thing works, the Bucks will actually have 3 first-round picks that they can trade next offseason. The question is whether or not, they can get there or not. So, I'm going to kind of give you a two-parter, but I'm going to start with this one. Giannis's recent comments, paired with the availability of Damian Lillard, paired with, whether you want to take Zach Lowe as having a good prognostication for next offseason that, the Bucks are not going to let, Grant, we talked about, Corbin Burns. Do you just let him run his entire contract and then walk for nothing? Or do you trade? There's, again, Zach Lowe, which carries a lot of weight for me, is saying, they will not just let him walk for nothing. They'll recoup the value next offseason if this season goes poorly, which maybe it won't. Maybe they'll win a championship. Anyway, let's start with this question. The Bucks should go. There's clearly a message being sent by Giannis, and the Bucks should go splashy to the best of their ability. And of course, the front office knows more than we do. Is Giannis talking about Damian Lillard? I don't know, but let's say he is. You can do Drew Holiday, MarJon Beauchamp, and thank you again, Ty Windish. MarJon Beauchamp, Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday would go to a third team. Essentially, you'd be giving up 3 first-round picks, 2 of those coming from Drew, Beauchamp, and then one of Bobby or Pat or Grayson, plus a whole bunch of seconds for Damian Lillard. That's the example I'm going to use, but if you were the front office, you think the Bucks should go with a big splash to appease Giannis and kind of change this narrative and clearly give Giannis the thing that he's trying to vocalize that he needs, that he wants. So let me start there, to go do that and or at least aggressively pursue that.
Let me, I don't know, Giannis had said this. I don't know if you guys heard this one. He said a lot of people say they're going to stay on a lot of people say they're going to stay on a team and decide to move to a different team. But you guys got to remember, a guy might want to stay on a team, but the team doesn't do the right things and the right move for the player to become great. He said that in 2017. Signed a contract.
Well done.
Here it is. I want the Bucks to build a winning culture. So far, we've been doing that. If this lasts, there's no other place I want to be. But if we're underperforming in the NBA next year, deciding whether to sign becomes a lot more difficult. That was 2019. Giannis needs to stop talking about this, and the Bucks should just ignore it.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't disagree more.
The Bucks are clearly set up for a last run with this group, a very good group. They got a new head coach to try to fix the problems, and it's a group that has won a championship. They've been favorites to do the same thing the last 2 years, but there has been injury. I think what you guys aren't thinking about is, I have all my eyes open the other day. They all opened the other day. I was a panic, whatever. What do we do? I see what's going on. Giannis was in the home stretch before he became a real dad, a girl dad. Giannis was having parent brain. There's a lot of stress going on. He's trying to think about his future. He's trying to think about his little baby girl. He's got all this stuff going on. He does a favor to a friend on a podcast. He talks. He gives him the clip. Giannis is not sending a message. If Giannis wanted Damian Lillard, he would call John Horst and say, get Damian Lillard. He's not going through all these. What he's telling the Bucks, if he's telling the Bucks anything, it's, hey, if this doesn't work this year, I'm not doing it another year. I don't think he's saying, go get Dame now. Damian Lillard, and I don't care if this doesn't hold up, guy ain't going to be a Buck. Let's cool it with that shit. He ain't going to be a Buck. The Bucks are going to be fine. They're going to have the team that they have. They're going to win a lot of games, maybe the championship, because they're good enough to do that. Who in the East is going to compete with them? Well, if Dame goes to Miami, Dame goes to Miami. Fuck that. They ain't going to be good. All the Bucks fans like to do is worry about the other teams. But if those teams were your teams, you'd say we suck.
Dame is old, and he's very good, but he's old and an injury risk, which has been the Bucks' problem.
I'd rather have Drew, Bobby, all these guys than 50 games of Dame.
Exactly.
You want NBA's David Bakhtiari, more like Damon Bakhtiari. He's going to play half the goddamn games for you.
Great.
You want Damon Bakhtiari.
So we've talked about this. First of all, on Dame, because I think you'd be reshuffling the deck to get a star player, but you'd lose depth. And that star player, it's not like you're getting a star player in his prime who's a better injury bet. You're getting more of the same, except you're putting more of your eggs into that basket. You're losing a lot of that depth. Giannis can say this all he wants, and he should say this. He should feel this way. I just don't want the narrative around the Bucks to run away and get out of whack, because the Bucks have done everything in their power. I think they've spent all the money. They've gone further into the luxury tax since winning their title. The Chicago Cubs play in a much larger market. They have their own TV network. They won a World Series and said, okay, we're going to let these guys go now. We're going to let them walk, or we're going to trade them.
They've done everything.
Bucks could have done that after winning a title. First time in 50 years, it would have been easy for the Bucks ownership group. They're not from here to say they got their ring. We delivered on our promise. We've rebuilt the stadium. We've rebuilt the district. We're not now going to dump millions and millions more into this team after we accomplished our goal by going to luxury tax. But they did, right? And then last year, they do everything possible. They scrounge up whatever they can to get Jay Crowder. Now they've hired Giannis's guy. The Bucks have held up their end of the bargain and then some. And if you think they should have gone all in to acquire a different superstar, okay, I would tell you that move wouldn't have given them better title odds than the odds they've had the last couple of years. There was an injury, and then Drew didn't play well. Giannis didn't play well against the Heat, right? And that's a tough reality. Players have bad series, and I don't necessarily hold that against Giannis. I'm still a massive Giannis fan. But then don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. Don't make this about the Bucks when I think the Bucks have done more than their end of the bargain, and they've done more than enough. So if Giannis leaves in 2 years at the end of this contract because the Bucks roster is old and they don't have any moves left to make, I won't hold it against him. But let's not act like he hasn't had a great chance to win the last 5 years, because he absolutely has. And a lot of credit to the Bucks for that.
The problem is a couple things here that I point out. One is, so Drew Holiday is extension eligible in February. Is he retiring? Does he want an extension?
Drew's not a Buck next year.
Okay, so then if you believe that, whether through retirement or a trade, or he actually makes it to free agency, which so few players do nowadays, if that's true, then that could be what Giannis is talking about. Now, we're obviously making the leap that he's talking about Damian Lillard being available or whatever else. But the Drew Holiday situation is like the end of February and all of March will be very, very uncomfortable if the Bucks are not extending Drew Holiday.
That'll be the canary in the coal mine, as they say. I feel like I'm hearing that expression everywhere now in sports media. That will be, yes.
It is a very malleable term.
Ah, yes.
So that, to me, that is, again, the Bucks know far, far, far more about Drew Holiday's future than we all do, and whether that retirement comment once upon a time was real. Bart, the thing I'd push back against is when Giannis made that comment in 2017, he was 22. When he made that other comment you read, he was 24. Like, he is clearly looking at to say, okay, all of my best players that I play with now are older than me. And by the way, acquiring Damian Lillard obviously wouldn't trade that fact. Like that wouldn't change the fact that
the Bucks really should have found a way to keep his brothers rostered for the last 4 seasons. They really should.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I guess let me.
Giannis I don't know why he keeps doing this. Maybe he feels like he needs to play a role. I'm sorry, man. You cried wolf too many times. There ain't no fucking wolf on the street. Okay.
So you're saying he's complaining about something that should not. There's not a complaint to be made, yet he's still making it.
I don't think there's a complaint to be made unless he's got an issue with Chris kind of lollygagging and coming back slowly last year and not really being in shape. If there's some issues,
if anything, I thought the message was to the other players, not to John Horst. John Horst's job is not to win titles. It is to keep Giannis. That's it.
Well, one is directly tied to the other.
Right.
But that's the main job he has.
And I think the Bucks have done it. With Ted Thompson, this is different. With Ted Thompson, and a lot of radio shows have brought this comparison. With Ted Thompson, you look back directly and said, could have done this, could have done that, could have done this, wouldn't have cost an arm and a leg, wouldn't have been, blowing his team to kingdom come and reinventing the roster. I can find nothing of the sort with John Horst. You could say could have done this, but I don't know that any of those could haves, should haves would have given this team any better of a chance to win the title. Like Kendrick Perkins said it on ESPN the other day, like, Jesus Christ, they were the 1 seed last year. Like the Bucks have done what they could do
in a series where Giannis didn't play 40% of it.
Yeah. And when he did play, he had, I don't know. Giannis's injury
You can't be the one to be the hurt one. You were the hurt one. And now you're saying everybody else needs to step up.
That injury.
Also, I'm not afraid if Giannis leaves. If Giannis leaves, then good luck. We got a great run out of him. I'll survive.
Grant, you go, and then I'm going to. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, if Giannis leaves, I don't think it's going to be the fault of anyone. I'm not going to be angry at the Bucks for not.
He might just want to leave.
If you want to leave because it doesn't make sense, go off.
So then here's the part B to this. As Zach Lowe said, in opinion, and again, I'm just going to keep restating that it wasn't said as like, look, let's create an aggregated article out of this comment. Like, it was not intended as that at all, in my opinion. He thinks, like, if this season doesn't go well, which Zach Lowe defined as losing in the conference finals, basically just not making the NBA finals constituting a failure, that Giannis's noise that he's making now would only grow next offseason, and that the Bucks would not, as Zach Lowe said, bury their head in the sand and would instead trade him. So, like, I don't even know if I have for that, but, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't
Giannis is not getting traded.
I wouldn't trade him. And also,
the Angels would have rather had Shohei Ohtani be injured and leave the team early and be fucked for the next 4 years than trade Shohei Ohtani 2 months. The Milwaukee Bucks, it will never say traded Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know where Zach's getting this. I feel like, as respected as these guys can be, anybody that doesn't follow the team day in and day out, their opinions are not. You don't have enough. You just don't have enough. You don't have enough. You're not here. You don't know.
You don't go to games. They don't go to games, is what I meant.
We let them off the hook. All right. Done. You have to leave?
Yeah, I got like 4 or 5 minutes. This is a good one. This is a good app. This was chock full of analysis and takes. We wasted no time today.
Yeah.
Right into it.
Light on the humor. Light on the coughing, I think, was better. Yeah, it picked up at the end, but I muted myself.
You did.
Pronounce this word for me. T-O-U-R.
Tour.
There's a lot of tour.
Stop making shit up.
I'm not.
Or
I feel like
3-hour tour.
A 3-hour.
3-hour tour.
I'm telling you, tour is, I think, more common nationally than tour, which is stupid. How about this one? A-L-M-O-N-D.
Almond.
Grant, what is yours, Grant?
I just said almond. Same as Bart.
Almond.
Like
the Almond brothers.
Andy Samberg in Brooklyn Nine-Nine would always say almond. but like not ironically or like in a silly way, just like that's how some
Yeah,
people
sometimes people pronounce words differently. I don't know. It's always.
It's a fascinating thing for me. I could analyze like word pronunciations. I could do a whole show on it. Let's do it.
Let's do a separate podcast on the Bart Winkler Network, and it's on the BWN, and it's just Paul talking to linguists.
Okay.
Like how Grant has a fetish with ships. Paul, you can talk to linguists, and I'll host it on the channel.
Okay, so last one then. DATA.
Data. Fuck.
Data.
Data.
No, what's the real answer?
Do you have that data? Data.
I
think I would say data.
I think I have probably said both. I'm going to go with data as the one I think I should say.
What's the data you have on that? What's the data? I'd say data.
Data.
All right.
This has been the Linguistic Hour on the Bart Winkler Network.
This was a pleasure as always, gentlemen. Thank you.
Not as pleasure as when you go to omahasteaks.com, type in Bart in the search bar. 50% off everything that they have and another $30 off with my code. Bart in the search bar at omahasteaks.com.